Ready?
Jim,
I'm ready.
what was your reaction to the way that game ended on Sunday, and you use that as a teaching point for your game?
You know, usually one day during the week, Friday or Saturday, we cover a lot of plays that came across the league. Sometimes it's the best way to learn is to learn from another team. There's definitely some coaching points there.
Jim, it's been, I guess, since your first year as a coach, since to be back at this point, do you look back and reflect on how difficult it is to actually get to this point? Over your career?
I've been to the AFC Championship a couple times.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's been a while though. I mean, you look back and just think that, and remarking how hard it is to get to this stage.
It's the next game for us to play. I mean, I think that our guys do a good job of keeping it right there, and I think that we talked a lot last week about it's still a game and everything's still the same as a regular season game. You still got the same thing. You want to try to score more points than the opponent, than you give up. So in that regard, I think the personality of our team plays pretty good to that, and staying in the moment and keeping their eyes on the immediate goal, which is to get a win on Sunday.
If you look at Fletcher, what's it do for the defense when he plays at the level he did on Saturday?
Yeah, he played pretty good. He was hard to handle in the run game. Lots made of Fletcher in the pass game, and rightfully so. He's a good pass rusher, but he made a couple plays in the run game that that were big time. He also made some plays chasing some wide receiver screens. And Fletcher's a great athlete. He's got speed. He's done that. He's done that since he's been here, though. I think it just was probably on a little bit bigger stage, and it got a little bit more attention. He's played good, consistent ball all year.
Jim, this was another game where it seemed like your guys got stronger as the game went on, shutting out in the second half. Obviously, they didn't get a lot of yards in the first half either. But do you feel like your guys kind of get a beat on an opponent as the game goes on? How much of that is them? How much is that adjustments?
I don't know. We don't really adjust a whole lot. I think early on in that game, we weren't tackling very well. We were stopping our feet and sort of reaching and grabbing instead of, there's an old adage that you tackle with your feet and you run through, and our guys were sort of stopping their feet. And I think some of that could probably be attributed to having an off week and, and going through what we went through. And that's sort of the double-edged sword of getting some rest is sometimes you can get a little bit rusty on fundamentals like that. A little bit of like a first preseason game. But after the first drive or two, we got back to personality. I thought there was a couple of big parts of that game. Third down efficiency was really big. We really didn't care about yards. It was keeping points off the board and trying to get drives stopped. And, we went through a good streak of getting drives stopped. It held them to some third and longs. That's a tough offense when it's 3rd down and 3, 3rd down and 4. There's so many options. There's so many places they can go with the ball. They have good players at a lot of different positions. We forced some 3rd down and long situations that had a lot to do with the final score in that game.
Was that one of Nigel Bradham's better games?
I'll put him like Fletch. He's played good, consistent ball for us all year long. He's played a couple different positions for us. He's had an outstanding year. I don't think that game was a whole lot different than what we've seen from him over the course of 16 regular season games also.
Jim, I'm sorry. I was going to say, I don't think Jalen Mills ever, from the rookie year on, lacked confidence. Where do you see his greatest growth this year?
Technique. It's one thing to have confidence. I mean, that's just not the sole requirement for the position. There's a lot of technique that goes along with playing. And I think if you look at that last play, he did a great job of staying square, meaning his shoulders were perpendicular to the line of scrimmage. If you get turned, what the receivers there are trying to do is get you turned so he can come back for the ball. He could never get Jalen turned. And I think, every player makes a big jump from year 1 to year 2 as far as knowledge of scheme and knowledge of opponents and things like that. Coach Unlin and Jalen have worked really hard. He's haunted the hallways quite a bit, even on off days this year, just trying to improve his technique. It hasn't been by by chance that his technique has got better. It's a lot of hard work that's gone into it from a coaching standpoint and from a player standpoint.
Is third down success just a function of being good on first and second down, or is there something else that's been a secret to your guys' success this year?
I don't know. I think that can certainly help it. Obviously, the percentage goes down for the offense the longer it is. But we're a pretty good rush team. You know, we're a little bit surgical on our blitzes. We don't blitz a lot, but when we do, they've been pretty effective. We don't make a lot of mental mistakes. We're a pretty good tackling team. You put those things together, you know, you got a pretty good chance to hold teams. And our guys do a great job preparing and understanding what they're defending and how we're going to defend it. I think that has a lot to do with it.
And then the Vikings, they've been a pretty good third down offense this year. I mean, Keenum's had a pretty high conversion rate when he's dropped back. Is that a mentality? Is that, again, just a down and distance thing? What do you see from them on third down?
I mean, he's played outstanding at the quarterback position, you know, and they got a lot of good players around there too. They've run the ball really well. They're a little bit, you know, I made a big deal last week about if you combine the running back totals, that would be an all-pro player. These guys aren't that far off of it, and they lost their, you know, potentially best running back in Dalvin Cook early in the season. So, you know, I think they've done a good job on first and second down. That's taken them to third. And Thielen took a big jump to being a Pro Bowl player. You know, Diggs, Rudolph, you know, they roll about 5 deep at wide receiver. All those guys have a role. And the quarterback is a smart veteran player, knows where to go with the ball, hasn't made a lot of mistakes.
They had some success against the Saints with those pick plays when New Orleans was in man coverage. Just what are the keys, or what's the emphasis with your defensive backs to kind of make sure you limit the damage on those?
Yeah, I mean, we've seen them from a lot of different teams. That's sort of life in the NFL now. You know, you're going to have to deal with picks, and not all the time are they going to get called by the officials. Some of them are legal if they're within a yard of the line of scrimmage. Some of them push it. I think just awareness of how they're setting up, things like that, you can help yourself. We got picked a couple times in the game on Saturday. You know, sometimes that's going to happen. But I think just knowledge of alignments and who the particular players are and things like that. But then, you know, a lot of it also has to do with, we talked a little bit before about third down. When it's 3rd and 3, you're going to have to fight through a lot of pick situations and rubs and things like that. When it's 3rd and 10, you can just play back and let it happen in front of you. So first and second down has a lot to do with those situations.
And some of your defensive veterans say you use percentages and are very detailed in how you present them to the team, more than any other team that they've played or defensive coordinator they played for. How does that help prepare a player for Sunday?
I don't know. I mean, that's all I've ever done, so I can't really comment on other teams.
What's your theory behind why is it important to have for the player?
Well, I mean, we just try to prepare them for the game that they're going to play on Sunday. Every game's a little bit different. How the opponent, trying to stay ahead of how the opponent's going to play us, what their strengths are, you know, things like that. I mean, I think when it's all said and done, percentages and numbers and stuff like that, I mean, they're important, but it means a lot less than guys knowing what to do and guys, you know, playing with some personality and tackling well and, you know, having speed and playing fast and all those things. I mean, I think those things probably rank ahead of, you know, statistics and analytics for us.
Jim, what was the approach on 4th and 2 on the last play? You know, a lot of time to get it across, and how did you see the play unfolding? What made it work, other than Jalen?
You know, our guys, we don't do a whole lot. Our guys know what to do, and you know, they've downloaded that software enough that you know, it's a little bit automatic for them. You know, we also, you know, didn't change. We don't surprise the players. You know, what we practiced in our red zone period is what we played. So, you know, I mean, yeah, at that point, you sort of have to trust the players, and you know, players have to trust the scheme. I think you saw a combination of both of those. We didn't feel the need to blitz. You know, played coverage, played good technique. I mean, a lot gets made of what Jalen did, rightfully so. I mean, you're talking about Pro Bowl, All-Pro receiver, one-on-one. But Malcolm playing the 7 route to Sanu and Rodney's ability to help him leverage that, I mean, that was because he's looking for Julio Jones first. Julio Jones slips, he's looking for Sanu, nowhere to go, and now he has to re-rack that thing, and by then Nigel Bradham's closing down on him and everything else. But, you know, if Malcolm doesn't get that route that he covered, if he doesn't get that covered, you know, nobody's talking about Jalen Mills right now. And,
Right.
you know, I don't know what else I had there, but, you know, I think that, I just think, like, you know, a part of our success is our guys just understand what's asked of them in the schemes. They communicate well. We don't make a lot of mistakes, mental mistakes, and I think that makes it hard to drive the ball on us. And, you know, when you get into those situations where it's closed quarters and you don't have to defend deep balls, you know, our guys have a good understanding of what opponents are going to do. You know, I was proud of them on that play.
Just getting back to that last play of the Falcons, the Vikings game, you kind of cringe as a coordinator when you see something like that, and specifically, you know, what would you tell your team in a situation like that?
Well, I'd rather not go into our coaching points, because if we're in that situation, I'd rather the opponent not know how we're going to play that. You know, there's been a bunch of plays that have come up that, you know, I mean, in 1999, I was in Tennessee when we hit the Music City Miracle, and I'm sure there were a lot of special teams coaches talking about, you know, staying back and staying in your lanes and, you know, doing all those kind of things. Playoff football is, you know, those plays are big, you know, and they're remembered for a long time. Like I said, you know, there's different ways to teach players. Sometimes they can learn from, you know, opponents' tape, and, you know, and I think that those are good teaching moments, but we're prepared for most situations. I think I'll just leave it at that. You know, how we're going to play it, I'd rather not say.
In those 3 games,
There's a sense, Jim, that in the playoffs the officials let a little bit more physicality between the receivers and the DBs. Do you agree with that? And I mean, what message do you and Corey give to the DBs in the playoffs? Do they play any differently and try to push the envelope a little bit more?
I think you can get screwed up that way. I mean, you play it the way you played for 16 games. You have confidence in your technique. You know, I think if you try to play out of character, that's one of the things we talked about earlier, you know, is even though it's a postseason game and it's a single elimination game and stakes get higher, it's still a 60-minute game, and, you know, you got to play it the way that that helps you be successful over the course of the season. So we try to play in the same personality. You know, I'd never tell a player to, like, intentionally foul thinking that you know, thinking that the officials weren't going to call it. That's just leaving way too much of a chance. You know, play with good technique, and you know, and go battle the way that we have since training camp. And I think that, you know, particularly Jalen showed that. He stayed square. He held his ground. You know, I think there was a lot of good things in there. We also got tagged. We got tagged for a holding penalty in that game. So it wasn't like they just let everything go.
You don't get a sense that the officials are willing to let a little bit more go in the postseason?
Our job's to play. You know, somebody else's job to officiate. And, you know, we let them do their job. We try to do our job the best that we can. You know, I think you can get in trouble if we try to anticipate the way something's going to get called or something like that. I mean, like I said, we have a personality. We've played with it for 16 games. We played with it for training camp and preseason games, and now one playoff game. And I think we'll stick with that.
in those 3 games, since the Giants game, teams are really struggling to score on you. Do you feel like you're peaking now at the right time?
Well, we'll see you on Sunday.
Jim, you mentioned Bo Allen as a third tackle and, you know, playing late in games and so on.
Yeah, Bo's a good, consistent player for us. You know, did a great job playing the run. We wanted to be a little push in the pocket down in the red zone that last series. He was on the field for a couple of, had a really good pass rush move on one, and did a great job on that screen play, that little shovel screen. Bo's played a lot of football for us, a lot of big games. We decided to go with 3 defensive tackles. we've had that situation before when we've had injuries, so it's nothing new to us, but it was the first time that we've had healthy DX. You know, there's a lot of other things that go into games and special teams players and things like that, and with an eye toward, you know, Fletch playing a lot more snaps. You know, that was the best way to use our resources, and you know, Bo's done a nice job for us, including this last game.
You mentioned the rub routes a little bit earlier. Is it fair to say Pat does that a little bit more than most? They seem to run quite a few of those.
I mean, it's everybody in the NFL runs, you know, versions of it. I think. I mean, we defend it every week, so I wouldn't say one team defends it more or uses it more than the next. A lot of it depends on what you're playing, also. Like I said, if you're playing man, you got potential to get picked. If you're playing zone, you're probably not going to get picked. So I think a lot of it also depends on what opponents do.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you.